Hello everyone and welcome back, and in today's installment we are going to be taking a look at Alex Kister's latest installment in the Mandela Catalogue called Volume 333. I know, very exciting stuff. I am honestly very excited, obviously. But yeah, huge elephant in the room, my hair is significantly shorter than last videos. I went for a simple trim and they just didn't give me that, so I have to deal with it, so you guys are going to have to deal with this short hair as well. Sorry for getting wrecked in the hair salon. Volume 333 released on June 3rd, 2022, which was shortly followed by a video titled Every Day Gets Brighter, which we will also be covering in this video. And if you're not caught up on the Mandela Catalogue lore or simply need a refresher, I have 3 videos covering the entire Mandela Catalogue lore up until this point, which will also be linked in the description below if you guys want to check those out. But yeah, my name is Wowman. If it's your first time here, welcome, and I hope you stay. And if you're coming back, welcome back. You're awesome even more. But yeah, sit back, relax, and enjoy Volume 333. The episode begins with a house that we have seen before in Intruder Alert. And in that episode, it was about a Mandela Catalogue child endangerment awareness video. And in that video, we got a message saying that they exist on a different spectrum. This, of course, referring to the alternates which do not live on the same spectrum as humans. And this piece of text gave us proof as to why the gunshot mark unleashed on the alternate had no effect and ended up getting him killed.
You fucking bastard!
We also learned from that tape that 3,426 children had gone missing in 4 counties: Bython, Herksha, Yonder, and Mandela County. And a little bit of backstory about this house that we did learn from the previous episode is that there was a self-inflicted death at this very house. A police report was done by Mandela County Police stating the following: after receiving neighboring noise complaints of a prolonged childlike crying, followed by a loud crack, an investigator was sent over to survey the home in the form of photos and videos. After taking the previously shown photo, the investigator reported feeling an overwhelming sense of dread and left the scene immediately. In order to provide security until another investigator was available, an on-site officer volunteered to set up a camera that took one photo every 5 minutes, facing the room that the event occurred in. And shortly after this text is given to us, we are given a look at the intruder invading the home, facing the camera. And in the next image, the victim's corpse is seen being tampered with by an invisible force. And going back into the Mandela Catalogue Volume 333, it begins with the people living inside of this home, which was investigated in a previous episode. So we are getting a little bit of backstory as to what happened leading up to the events seen in The Intruder. A person named Lynn tends to their crying child.
It's okay. It's okay. What's wrong, honey? Everything's gonna be okay. There's no need to cry.
Lynn calls the father of her child, telling them that their child won't stop crying and that it's been happening at the same time every single night.
Hey, what's up?
He started crying again. Same time. I don't know what to do.
Are you absolutely sure it's not the...
No, I keep telling you, it's not. I've had it unplugged for weeks now.
But then Lynn cuts Jude off, saying no, it's been unplugged for weeks now. And we can infer that Jude is referring to the television because, as we know from previous installments, the intruder is able to broadcast their face through screens and uses this to abduct children. But Lynn reassures Jude that their TV has been unplugged for weeks now. We are then shown a divorce agreement between Jude and Lynn, and the couple has been together for 2 years, marrying back on June 8th, 1990, divorcing on August 29th, 1992. And recalling from the Mandela Catalogue Volume 1, alternates have been around since 1991, and Mark's death happened in 1992, meaning this scene does take place the same year that Mark was killed, 1991, 17 years before we would meet Adam and Jonah, the outlaws investigating the paranormal, which happens in 2009. Lynn tries to get Jude to come over and check on their son, but Jude is reluctant, saying it's probably just in their child's imagination.
Tomorrow night, you promise you'll actually come over this time? He's still your child too, you know.
I swear to God, Lynn, if this is just an imaginary friend or something, I'm gonna lose it.
What do you mean? Do you realize how young he is?
So the funny thing is that Lynn's child is an infant, and I don't think Jude realizes that children don't really have imaginations as infants. You know, they're only a couple months old. They can barely even comprehend stuff that's happening right in front of them. But then something very peculiar happens in the episode. We see Lynn watching television, something prohibited and cautioned all over Mandela County, because television is how the intruder enters your home. All TVs should be unplugged, but Lynn just couldn't resist. Lynn watches with her eyes wide open, knowing the consequences of watching, yet cannot stop. And here the segment ends, but based on the Intruder Alert episode, we know what happens next. Lynn continued to watch TV until the intruder appeared, causing Lynn to end her own life, and the child stolen by the intruder. And as for Jude, the father of the child, their whereabouts are unknown.
Nothing but enlightening, to say the least. Learned a lot about myself, and I hope my colleagues in this room have learned just as much about me as well.
The tape then cuts into a live feed of a promotion ceremony dedicated to Sergeant Ruth Weaver and Lieutenant Thatcher Davis. And as for Sergeant Ruth Weaver, this is the first time they've been mentioned in the series. However, as for Thatcher Davis, on the other hand, this person we have met before in the episode called Emergency Call Operator Training and Trauma. And if you guys do remember from that episode, the essential highlight of that episode was revealing to us that 911 operators were not taking intruder calls. They were simply told to listen to people calling from an intruder and, not to send help, basically. So people would call about alternate incidents and would never get help, just like what happened to Mark. Lieutenant Thatcher Davis was the person who recovered Mark Heathcliff's camcorder, which had his experience hiding from the alternate on it. Mark begged authorities to save him, but, again, as we learned from the Mandela Catalogue Volume 1, 911 call dispatchers are specifically told to, quote, "do not help a caller reporting an alternate encounter. No matter how frantic their screams are, calmly reassure the caller that help is on the way. The call can be ended when they stop responding to your questions. Do not speak too much. You might accidentally reveal your fear." And as we'll learn as we progress further into this episode, this promotion does take place right before Mark is killed. The next part of the episode is a voicemail from someone working at a school's office calling the police station.
One of our students, Mark Heathcliff, he's been absent for the past couple days without any reason, no phone calls from parents, no doctor's excuse, and we don't have any apparent emergency contacts on file for him. If you could have someone pay a visit to the 3 Avenue and make sure everything's all right, it would be much appreciated.
The person states that Mark Heathcliff has been absent for a couple of days. They ask if an officer could pay a visit to their house just to make sure if everything is okay. And the officer that investigated was Officer Thatcher Davis.
Sheriff's Department, open up. Police, open the door.
Being a little aggressive, I might add, just for checking in on someone. He's like banging on the door. Like the person inside could need some help, but instead they're kind of just like yelling at them. Just like banging, like somebody's like dying inside. Like, open the door. Officer Thatcher Davis finds Mark's body with a gun in their hand. And as we saw in the previous installment, Mark tried to kill the alternate invading the home, but was unsuccessful, to say the least. Mark Heathcliff, 17 years old, July 24th, 1974 to September 21st, 1992. Thatcher proceeds to investigate the room, and we can see bullet shells on the bed. The TV is on, a tape recorder on top, and then we see a notebook under a Bible called Reassurances. God bless all. The tape cuts, and we hear a conversation between Officer Thatcher and Officer Weaver.
You do realize you just got promoted, right? You don't have to work on this bullshit case anymore.
Listen, I got a lead.
Weaver tells Thatcher that Thatcher doesn't have to work the case anymore because of the promotion, referring to Mark's death. But Thatcher tells Weaver that they have a lead. And what follows isn't evidence real on the case of Mark's death. We are shown a picture of Caesar along with their fingerprints, then stating that Caesar's prints were present on the doorknob, which makes sense because the alternate that killed Mark was impersonating Caesar. Because what happened was that Mark went to turn on the cameras in Caesar's home, but then the alternate that was in Caesar's house followed Mark back to his own house.
I'm on my way to the ER, but could you do me a favor?
Yeah, of course. What is it?
I just need you to come over and turn on the cameras we have set up.
Mark Heathcliff. Fingerprints found on the handgun, cassette player, notebook, and camcorder. Point of interest, the camcorder, with a tape inside labeled Shadow Under the Door. The tape is dated September 14th, 1992. However, Mark didn't die until September 21st, meaning that Mark was trapped inside of the room for an entire week. No food, no water, and an alternate right outside their door. The voice outside of the room tells Mark to open the door and how they're not going away.
I am not going away.
And seeing as the alternate persisted for an entire week outside of Mark's door, that proves correct. And what precedes the voice is what I believe to be Mark watching TV. Which is very strange considering Mark is hiding from an alternate but is willing to let the intruder in. Very interesting. And within the journal that Mark created, called Reassurance, it states the following. God loves me unconditionally. Always remember that no matter the circumstances, God loves all of us, simply because he has chosen to. He loves me when no one else loves me. I am at peace. Today is the day I need God's love more than anything. I am alone and need to feel the warmth of his love and reassurance. My Lord, I am afraid. I beg for your love and protection against evil. I have no choice anymore. The cops never came for me. Nobody came for me. Whoever is reading this, please stop it before it does this to anyone else. Who have I been praying to all this time? My eyes are wide open. Immediately after, we are shown the poster which was printed to warn people of the alternate which lured Mark into the house, as shown in Volume 1, the alternate of Cesar Torres. And as for where the real Cesar Torres is, we can assume that the alternate killed them and took their place. Caesar was only 18 years old. The poster also states that it may display inhuman features. Again, this is something that we saw in Volume 1. And the funniest thing is the text at the bottom of the flyer. Avoid interaction, call 911. But we all know what happens when somebody calls about an alternate incident. No one will be sent to help. So again, another piece of evidence of false hope provided by Mandela County. The other two flyers in the frame also give us some additional information as to what's going on. On the left, there is a flyer for a soccer game between Mandela Meerkats and the Brighton Bunnies. Both Mandela and Brighton County were hit by the intruder. And at the bottom of the flyer it even says, "Go to Mandela Grieving Parents Foundation." Because of the thousands of children being taken by the intruder, the county has created this foundation for every parent that has lost their child to the intruder to go to. The flyer on the right is a recruitment flyer, and because of the surge in alternate incidents, it makes absolute sense that the county would want to recruit more officers. The next part of the episode shows us this. Murray v. Altercation Evidence Real. Case 334. Now there is something very interesting about this name, Murray, because if we recall to the Mandela Catalogue Volume 2, we were met with two characters on the run.
We either, one, ask someone to help start our car with the cables, or...
steal another one?
Yeah.
A duo who had created the Bythorn Paranormal Society. Investigations done for cheap. Where the two would essentially do house calls for cash to investigate any paranormal suspicions people may have had about their homes, and mainly suspicions about alternates. And the names of these two were Jonah Marshall and Adam Murray. Now it's pretty impossible for this evidence reel to be about Adam Murray, the one that we met in Volume 2. However, what is more likely is that this evidence reel is about one of Adam Murray's parents. There are only 2 minutes of the tape that were salvaged, but within it we do get a glimpse of perhaps one of Adam Murray's parents. The tape begins and is labeled "The Might of the Subconscious." And what proceeds is very odd. A floating silhouette of a face appears, being puppeteered by, presumably, one of Adam's parents. And I'll touch base on the Adam's parent theory once we touch base on what's actually going on within this little tape. The floating puppet introduces itself. Stanley.
Hello? Can you hear me? Oh, hello. Now, you may be thinking, who is this voice speaking to me through my television set? Well, let me introduce myself. My name is Stanley.
The puppet goes on about friendship and what is required of a real friend. Stanley says that they can make friends out of thin air, and begins to show the viewer how.
I can make friends appear out of thin air. What was that? You want to know how? Well, I can tell you, but you have to promise me that I am one of your friends first.
After taking the viewer through the process of creating a friend, Stanley says it's time to meet your new friend.
Can you keep an even bigger secret? I think it worked. Your new friend is somewhere in your house. Now it's up to you to go and find them.
So this part of the episode is pretty hard to interpret as there isn't a lot to go off of. Although I can say that Stanley is not an entity of its own, but rather a portrayal of what's going on in Mandela County. An interpretation of the intruder by someone who has never seen it. Because if you do see it, it's over. You know, that's it. And I feel like it would be easy to say that this is Adam's parent controlling a puppet illuminated in darkness. Although it seems wrong because there isn't any other correlation to Adam other than the last name, which could be just a coincidence. So I don't think that the theory that this is Adam's parent is solid as of now, because we do need more information to make it a concrete theory other than just the last name. But also something very interesting about this section of the episode, it was actually inspired by a short film called Limbo, The Organized Mind, released back in 1966. This is mentioned in the credits of Volume 333, but I thought I'd mention it as well because it's fairly interesting. Hey everybody, quick break while I take some time to pour myself some tea because my throat is getting kind of parched. And while I do take this time to pour myself some tea, I wanted to let you know that I have a Patreon now. And I think you should join. I think it'd be very awesome and it would actually help me a lot. But yeah, cheers. You should join my Patreon. Officer Thatcher then answers a phone call from a panicked civilian.
911, what's the emergency? Please, you gotta help me. There's someone in my house. I don't know what to do. I don't even know what they got inside. I've had my doors and windows locked for months. Alright, just calm down, okay? We'll get this figured out. Just need to stay quiet. Are you hiding?
Also, I'm sorry, but have you guys seen Home Videos? This is just a little side note. It's this old Adult Swim show. Just doesn't Officer Thatcher kind of sound like Coach McGurk here?
You may have a mental edge over your opponent, and that's what you gotta use.
Just calm down, okay? We'll get this figured out.
I just needed to see if it's me. It's only in this scene, really. The rest of the other scenes, he sounds great. It's just, for some reason in this one, he kind of sounds like Coach McGurk. Officer Thatcher asks the victim if the person that broke into their home resembles anyone that they know.
Does this man resemble anyone you know by chance? No. What? I have never seen anyone in my life that looks anything like him.
Because Officer Thatcher does expect this to be an alternate incident, they expect to hear a yes from the victim. But then the victim proceeds to say that they have never seen anyone that looks like it in their life. To which Officer Thatcher replies that that doesn't make any sense, meaning this is most likely the first time Thatcher has had to deal with the intruder. Ruth then calls Thatcher and asks if they can come over because Ruth needs backup, because the other officers were too scared to continue.
Thatcher, we're gonna need some backup here.
What are you talking about? Where's the others?
The officer that was already checking out the place just pussied out.
Jesus. Okay.
But when Thatcher returns the call of the victim he was speaking to, there is silence on the other end. The intruder has killed them.
I apologize for the silence, sir. What's your address? Sir?
Thatcher makes their way over to the home to aid Ruth, per their request. And the home in question is the home that we saw at the beginning of the episode, inhabited by Lynn and their child. Again, Lynn being the person that couldn't resist watching TV after dealing with their crying child and the child's absent father. They just needed something to relieve the tension. However, that something caused something horrible to go wrong. Lynn allowed the intruder into their home through the screen. Ruth and Thatcher investigate the home, and there's music coming from within the home, and the TV Lynn was watching is still on. And then they hear a voice coming from within the darkness. Thatcher's own voice being repeated back to them.
Hello? Hello? Identify yourself. Identify yourself.
An alternate mimicking the sound of Thatcher's voice, trying to intimidate and screw with Thatcher's head. And we can also see that the intruder is watching as the alternate gets closer and closer. Footsteps get louder, then silence. And the alternate's hand creeps into frame. Thatcher jumps out of the window, escaping the alternate attack, but leaves Ruth inside the home, alone with the alternate.
Ruth, if you're still in there, I'm gonna find help, okay? Just meet me at the station.
Thatcher makes it back to the police station, alone. Not a single soul except Thatcher's inhabits the facility. Thatcher tries desperately to make contact with the other officers, but no one is responding.
1078 requesting backup. 1078 requesting backup. 1018 requesting assistance from available Bythorn units.
and music begins to play, and it's clear that something is coming.
Are there any available units in this area?
The alternate appears and slowly makes its way over to Thatcher until it's right in front of them. And that's when it becomes clear that this alternate is the exact same alternate which killed Mark, repeating the same phrase it told Mark seconds before it killed them. The alternate lifts its cheeks, forming a smile, laughing maniacally. Thatcher shoots the alternate just like Mark did, but it has no effect, just like when Mark attempted to kill the alternate. Instead, the alternate copies Thatcher's face and body. There's not enough room for the two of us, Lieutenant. And the episode concludes there. However, we do get one more piece to the puzzle in an episode titled Every Day Gets Brighter. A personal tape recording from Officer Thatcher, labeled Thoughts on the Ordeal. Within the tape, Thatcher confesses that no one knows what they're doing. They're all just as confused and scared as the civilians.
Everyone doesn't know what to do. No one knows what to do. I don't know what to do. All these missing people, they blame us for not finding them, but we don't know where the fuck they went.
But then Thatcher talks about his experience facing the alternate, saying it took something from them.
That thing took something from me. I feel different. Seeing a perfect copy of you just walk away, back out into the world. I'm gonna kill this thing if it's the last thing I fucking do. I'm alive. But part of me doesn't want to be.
And with that, the series as of now concludes. Officer Thatcher is alive. Officer Ruth was presumably killed in the house that night. The night Officer Thatcher escaped. The police force continues to dwindle, losing officers left and right, as the alternates continue to take over and continue to copy people. But yeah, that was the Mandela Catalogue, Volume 333. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you so much. Consider subscribing. We cover all sorts of analog horror content here. So if that's your thing, welcome. Huge thank you to my patrons, Beguld, Blech, Alyssa, and 10 Tiny Bees. You guys are awesome. I can't believe you're patrons. It means so much to me. Thank you so much. And if you want to help out the channel as well, I'll have my Patreon linked in the description as well, and I'll include you in every single ending of every single video ever. But yeah, thank you for spending time with me. It was lovely having you here. I very much appreciate it. And yeah, that's everything. I'll see you in the next one. Please stay safe. And yeah, I'll see you later.